Hello everyone, Morgan here, and today I'm going to be talking about the 20-ish items that I think every prepper should have. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. So the first one is the water supply, but not just water supply. I think you need to have water filtration as well, so water stuff. So with water supply, we have bottles of water, we have a Berkey filtration system or something like it. We have rainwater collection. We have lots of different ways to store water. No matter where you live, you can store just a little bit of water, right? And bottled water is so easy to just get it going right here and now because you just go buy it from the store really quick. A rain barrel system can happen anywhere, okay? Even if you live in the desert, it does rain in the deserts, okay? Not as much, but you can fill your water systems. Now, they're not going to be your main systems. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. Make sure that you are storing water purification systems as well. Like I said, that Berkey water purification tablets, things like that. I have lots of videos about that, whole playlist about it, so you want to go check that out. So the next one, of course, is going to be non-perishable foods. I think water is a kind of top because if you don't have water, you can survive without food a lot longer than you can without water. So I like to always say that first. Non-perishable foods, canned goods, freeze-dried foods, bulk dried goods, that you put in Mylar, stuff like that. Any type of non-perishable foods that don't require refrigeration is definitely something you're going to want to stock up on, right? And get the foods that you're actually going to eat. Oftentimes I hear just people saying, well, I have all this canned fruit that we don't eat. And I'm like, well, why? It doesn't make any sense. You're wasting time, storage, and money. You're wasting all those three things on something that you're probably never going to eat and you're just going to donate. You're like, well, if I'm starving, no, just prep food that you are actually going to eat. Okay? There's no reason to prep food that you're just never going to eat, and you know it. Prep the food that you are going to eat. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your money. Prep the food you're going to eat. Definitely don't waste your storage. Next one's going to be first aid. Not just a first aid kit. I think you should have a first aid kit in your car. You should have it in your home. You should have it at your workplace. You should have it in your everyday carry. You should have it in your backup bag. You should have first aid supplies everywhere, and you should have lots of different first aid supplies. You should have first aid books. You should be getting first aid classes. You should be learning first aid quite a bit. Just today alone, before making this video, my husband injured himself twice doing a project. So my husband has been known to injure himself a few times. And so it's important to have not just the medical supplies like gauze and alcohol and Band-Aids and all these things, but it's also important to learn the skills as well as having medications. So the Jace antibiotics, the over-the-counter medications, and any other medications that you may need. Also learning natural medications, natural herbal remedies, things like that, on all that good first aid stuff. So the next one I'm going to say is seeds. So seeds last a really, really long time. And I've talked in previous videos about how people are like, well, I can only buy seeds from the actual seed packets. The thing is, you can save seeds just from grocery store pumpkins and things like that. A lot of people are going to be like, yeah, those are GMO and those are hybrids and whatever. Yeah, they may be. Absolutely. And they may not be the original thing that you wanted. But you can plant, you get those black beans from the store, some dried black beans, you can plant those. That's something you can actually plant. I've done it many times. I'm going to be doing another experiment here just to show you guys that this stuff works. You can plant all kinds of things. If it has seeds, you can plant it. Even fruit, yes. You should save seeds from wherever you can get them, as well as purchasing seeds from Survival Garden Seeds. I love their seeds. They have lots of buckets and things of seeds that you can use and save. Seeds last a very, very, very long time. And so I think that, whether you're ready to get started with gardening now or not, start collecting some seeds. Okay, so now we're talking about lighting sources, candles, flashlights, batteries, both disposable and reusable, any type of Hand crank options. I'm not like the biggest fan of hand crank options, but they're like a last resort if you absolutely have to get them. Battery operated anything is okay. Rechargeable, just like the rechargeable flashlights themselves, I really like. There are solar flashlights. There are all kinds of different lighting options. I really love candles. I store beeswax so that I can make my own candles. You know, you can make candles out of crayons. I mean, there's lots of ways to make crayons in a wick and things like that. So be creative, get creative, and have lots of lighting sources. All right, next one is a portable stove. A portable stove is great, like a Coleman cook stove. You can get that little baking stove, or that little baking thing that you can put on top of the Coleman stove. I would say any cook source in general. Like we have a solo stove with a grate on top. We also have like the cooktop on it that you can use. There's like a pizza extension that you can use and just make a little fire. You can make a little hobo stove. You can make a little rocket stove. Really any cooking source, not just a portable stove, but any cooking source that you can use with little twigs or, bigger logs or propane, butane, these kinds of things. Have a variety of options for cook sources. And of course, with cooking sources, you cannot go without fire starters. You can make your own fire starters. Like you don't have to buy fire starters. I really like certain fire starters, like Blackbeard fire starters. They're great fire starters. There's a ton of different fire starters out there in the market, but the Instant Fire is also a really, really good one. I like those a lot. Those have always been really reliable. But you can make your own fire starters. I mean, just dipping like a cotton ball in some beeswax or petroleum jelly or something like that. That's a simple, easy, bim, bam, boom. I can do that right now. You can just get like a tube of chapstick, right, with some cotton balls, and that could be your kit, because that will make a fire starter. Like you don't have to be complicated about this. And those things can be gotten from the dollar store. So get creative. So blankets and sleeping bags. I am a big component of just having tons of blankets and sleeping bags, especially 0-degree sleeping bags. I've talked about this a lot. People think the sleeping bag and they think just camping, right? But your sleeping bag can be used during the winter. Like if your power goes out and you don't have, electric heat source, or you don't have another heat source, you can use your sleeping bags in your house, right? So sleeping bags are a really big thing that I think everybody should be prepping. But of course, lots of blankets. And then other things to keep you warm, like bigger jackets, things like that. The hand warmers. There are also electric hand warmers, which are pretty good. There's the Mr. Heaters, which are safe for indoor use. These kinds of things. Of course, if you live in a really cold area, you probably already have this covered with like a wood stove or other alternative heating options. There's propane heating options that are indoor use and for safe. Lots of ways to go to try to stay warm. Clothing. So I do want to say clothing mainly because the other day I realized I didn't have a good rain jacket, and I thought I did. I do have some ponchos though, so that's good. I have some ponchos, but the other day, I was at 5-Eleven and I saw this rain jacket and I was like, do I even have a rain jacket? And I went home and I was like, I don't even have a rain jacket. So, I remember the one that I had was awful, so I got rid of it. Like it would just completely soak through and make me all wet. And I'm like, well, this completely defeats the purpose of having a rain jacket, to keep the water off of me, right? If I wanted to be wet, I would just not wear a jacket. Anyway, so the proper clothing, and if you have kids, this is even more important as well. We try to have clothes for like the next growth, right? And with kids, it can be tough, but we have a Once Upon a Child nearby, or like Goodwill, or those kinds of things, in which you can buy clothes for super cheap for like the next step up for kids, as well as shoes. My kids have been going through shoes like crazy, and they will, of course, they're growing. But not just for your kids, for yourself. Plenty of shoes, clothing, these kinds of things, socks. Gosh, I go through socks so much. Like, I don't even know why. Like, why am I going through socks so much? But I get so many holes and I try to patch it or whatever. But go through so many socks. Get the socks, get the underwear, get the extra clothing, and think about the upcoming seasons as well. So like our upcoming season, right, we're in summer right now at the time of posting this. And our upcoming season is, of course, going to be fall. So I'm thinking about, okay, I'm going to need some rain boots. We're going to need some rain jackets, these kinds of things. And these things are on sale right now during the summer. So you can go find some really good deals. So try to think about that season ahead when you're looking for jackets and things. And at the end of winter, mid to end winter is when a lot of the winter clothes will go on sale as well. So you get that for the next size up for the next year. Yeah, now we're cooking. Okay, communication devices. This is another one that so many preppers just don't care about, and I don't understand because whether it's just like a handheld radio that you want to communicate with like some neighbors or friends in your city, or whether it's a ham radio in which you want, or a GMRS in which you want longer distances, it's not always about communicating out or transmitting out. It's about sometimes getting that transmission so that you can hear what is going on. I've been watching Jericho a lot lately. I've been really into that. And an EMP took out their stuff. So I have radios in a Faraday bag and a Faraday trash can, which I have a video about. But there's a Faraday bag and a Faraday trash can that I have radios in. But you have those so that you can listen to what the heck is going on. If you're in the dark, well, you're in the dark, right? If something has happened, you're like, well, there's no social media, there's no communication, there's no TV, there's no radio. Okay, well, ham radio people are going to be our next best option, or just radio people, okay, in general. They're going to be our next best option because they will be able to communicate with each other to tell everybody what the heck is going on and get information, because information is power. Okay, so sanitization items. So things like toilet paper, baby wipes, soap, hand sanitizer, trash bags, make your own little bucket toilet, right? These kinds of things. I would even say a bidet. Like there's little travel bidet that you can get. Any type of sanitation supplies, anything. Soaps, the waterless soaps. I talk about that a lot. Get these items, a little bit at a time, but you're probably already stocking up on these things. Toothpaste, everything that you use to sanitize and clean yourself or your home, go ahead and just stock up a little bit extra on that stuff. Or you can also learn to make it. So you can learn to make your own hand sanitizer, which I've done. You can make your own, cleansing wipes to like wipe stuff down. You can make your own soap. Make your own stuff too. Do it both. Personal documents. Personal documents are copies of your ID, your insurance, your medical records, and any other important contacts and information. I talked about this in a recent video about bugging out, in which personal documents kept in, actually physically printed out. A lot of people will say, yes, put it on a USB drive, and I agree, put it on a USB drive, but also have it printed out. And I actually want to say extend that to not just important documents, but just anything like recipes, how-to articles that you really enjoyed, anything that you see on the internet and you're like, you know what, this could be useful to me in the future, go ahead and print it. This includes also photos as well, because I don't know about you, but I have all my photos on my phone, right? And they just kind of stay there. But I have been going to Shutterfly every month and printing anywhere from like 20 to 50 photos, and it takes, it's like $12, something like that, because I just pay for the shipping. And sometimes they have like a bunch of sales and things like that. They always having a sale. But go ahead and just start printing your photos just a little bit at a time and building up, those actual photos. Make some photo albums, right? And in addition to documents, I actually want to add on to that as well. Get some DVDs. Get some CDs, things like that. Things that are actually tangible, as well as having the devices and things to use them. Like we have an external DVD player that we can play just on our computer. Our computer uses less energy than like a TV or a PlayStation or something like that. But yeah, you could have like the DVD and CD players and things like that so that you can still have some music. They still sell all this stuff, so you can go ahead and get that. We have a CD game exchange here that we go to often to get DVDs and things like that. All right, the next thing, I guess, kind of on that note, is going to be morale items. Like, board games. It's going to be card games, stuff for the kids, crafts, journals, books, not just nonfiction books, but fiction books. And for us, homeschooling would be not a morale item, but I guess something that's kind of in that. It's not a morale item. My kids don't like it. No kid likes school. But yeah, so build up these supplies slowly and surely. Dollar Store has a lot of really good stuff like this. Really cheap. You do not have to get complicated with this. Get some journals, get some pens, markers, crayons, all this stuff from the dollar store. You can get all this stuff. Next one is maps and compass. So I'm a really big, strong believer in maps and compass because if you ever do have to leave your home and you don't have like GPS or anything like that, the maps and the compass are going to come in handy. Now, it's not so intuitive to a lot of us these days on how to read a compass, how to read a map. I think I'm fine with, but I think most people are still maybe a little confused with sometimes because we have, Google that tells us everything, or, if you're still using Quest Maps or whatever. Insane. Anyway, they are telling us where to go. So there's just no thought process to it. So you can take these maps and just go start exploring your city, explore around, and use that compass to actually learn to navigate as well. All right, tools. So tools like hammers, screwdrivers, and then the nails and the screws, tape, scissors, all types of tools. Tools that take batteries are really good as well instead of the ones that plug in. And I say that because I can charge a battery for like a powered drill, but it's harder for me, like in a blackout scenario, to just plug it in. Like it would take more power to use it plugged in. So usually, not always, of course, but having the batteries and then a couple extra batteries for those power tools. But of course, you don't want all power tools. You want tools that are manual tools. But I would say under tools as well, kitchen tools like your manual grinder, also an electric grinder. I have used a solar generator, which I'll talk about here in a second, on my electric grinder, and it worked great. I have, there's fans and all these other things. Tools that are going to keep you safe and comfortable, or whatever the case may be, helpful, in the kitchen. I have like a manual shredder in the kitchen. And of course, we can't forget paracord. I mean, if you're a prepper and you don't have at least 1,000 feet of paracord, are you even a prepper? Just kidding. But paracord, really. Or any rope. There's lots of good rope outside of just paracord. So I think everybody should have some cash on them. And cash can be determined in, whatever denominations you want, but usually smaller bills are going to be more accepted. And you're probably thinking, well, if it's a blackout or, if it's the apocalypse, nobody can take money. Yeah, actually, for a little while, they will take money. So if you go into a grocery store and, it's a blackout for a couple of days, they don't know it's going to be gone forever, and neither do I. So we're going to have, these couple little things. Hopefully, you won't have to use the cash, right? But if you had to, you have the cash, right? So hopefully you're so prepared that you don't have to go to the grocery store for those first few days, right? And you don't need anything. But cash is good in a lot of different scenarios. There was a blackout when we were in Arizona, and I actually didn't even know there was a blackout until we went to the gas station. And we wanted, like a couple drinks from the gas station because we were going into town, which is like an hour and a half away. And the power was out. And we were like, oh, okay. And they only took cash because the power was out. So we had cash and we were able to pay with it. Obviously, we didn't need the drinks. I'm just saying, have some small denomination bills, some coins, some gold, some silver, all these other little things. So protective gear. And when I say protective gear, I'm talking about gloves. I'm talking about masks, N95 masks as well as gas masks. I think, gas masks are pretty underrated because they're just like, well, we don't need it. Well, there's a lot of different reasons you may want a gas mask, not just for chemical warfare, but for, extreme wildfire situations, things like that. Smoke inhalation is deadly, it is. And so anyway, other protective gears, goggles, full suits. I want the full like hazmat suits. I think that's a really nice thing to have. Maybe not something I'm going to use always, but when I'll need it, I'll need it. So just start with some gloves and masks and things like that, protective gear, not just rubber gloves or the nitrile gloves, but get gloves that are good for like, working in the garden, garden gloves, things like that, all different types of gloves that you could have. Yeah, the next one is defensive items. So defensive items would be things like firearms, ammo, pepper spray, and personal alarms, self-defense, learning self-defense, hand-to-hand self-defense. And it's any of that defensive skills or items, okay? It's any item that you consider a defensive item. You have to think about, where you live and these kinds of things. And sometimes we have to get creative, right? So maybe, this insulated water bottle is going to be part of your defensive item. Maybe your keys are going to be part of your defensive items, right? But it's about training with these items that we have on hand. It's not just about having the gun. It's not just about having, the knife. It's not just about carrying these things in the pepper spray. We need it, one, easily accessible, and two, you need to train with them and make sure that you know what you're doing with these items. You fall back to your level of training. So train with them. Get to know them. Generators. So generators of any kind. And we're talking about gas, diesel, solar. We are talking about all different types of generators, even propane. Whatever you can sustain for your area. When I was up north, gas and diesel were probably more effective most of the time of the year, more times of the year than a solar generator. But solar would be really good for other times of the year. It just kind of depends. Now, I have a lot of solar generators. They're power banks, but they can be charged with solar panels. That's why I call them solar generators. But anything that can be recharged, I think is a really good thing because, I can charge it with the sun instead of having to rely on going to get gas. But I can store gas for periods of time. There's gas, extenders and things like that. Diesel can store a little bit longer as well. There's lots of ways to, propane stores really, really well. So if you have like a propane generator or like the dual purpose with some of them like propane gas or something like that, you can do that. But a generator is a really good investment. Make sure that you're using generator safety and all these things. I have so many different types of generators. We want to keep things powered and going. And I have other videos that talk about that, but books is also a really big one. Of course, books of all different kinds. And I did mention, nonfiction and fiction books and the morale item, but I wanted to have this as its own thing because knowledge is power. And there's so many great books out there that we can learn from. I have 3 books out there that you can go check out to help you be more prepared. But there's so many great survival and bushcrafting and self-reliant homesteading, all kinds of books. I mean, you could get a book about, making cabins, get a book about how to build a bunker, all these little things, right? Little things. A book about gardening. Get to know, your wild edibles through books. There's just so many great books that we can get out there. Like you can get like 1 book a month. Of course, you can get them from the library, of course. But, I like to have that physical copy. At least, you could spend $10 to $20 on 1 book a month, and you can build up that collection pretty dang fast. Okay, the very last thing that I want to mention is animal needs. So anything that you need for your animals, whether it's your pets or your livestock or whatever, anything that you need, you're going to want to stock up on. It's food for them, it's water for them, it's medical supplies for them, it's any potential heating or cooling options for them depending on where you live or what's going on. So anything you may need for them, if you need a crate for your animals, if you need, new leashes, if you need to get their boosters, if you know that they need consistent medicines, like our dog is on pain medication pretty much all the time now for an ailment of his. And these are things we have to be aware of and now stockpile for him and always have a good supply for him. There's lots of things that we might need for our pets that maybe you can make yourself. So how would you make your own dog food in an emergency? Or how would you make your own cat food, right? I actually have a blog post that talks about that. But how would you do that kind of stuff, right? I think this was 20-ish. We'll just call it about 20. Thank you all so much for watching. I'd love to hear more of your thoughts about what else preppers should be stocking up on now. Thank you all so much for watching. Conquer Tomorrow by Preparing Today. I'll talk to you later. Bye.